Welcome, everybody, to our July 2024 Animal Reiki Talk. And I'm really happy to be here with all of you today. And as you know, each month I have a little talk on a certain Animal Reiki topic. Then I open it up to Q&A and sharing. And then we finish with a lovely animal healing circle that we can all hold together. So for today, my topic is Animal Reiki and animal activism. And I wanted to talk about this particular topic because I think some people may think when they hear, animal activism, they may think, well, that's really nothing to do with my animal Reiki practice. My animal Reiki practice is sitting, meditating, being calm, holding this beautiful space of quiet. And animal activism is, well, I've got to go out in the world. Maybe I'm on the front lines of animal welfare for some issue, or I might, be talking to people, or, maybe I'm rescuing animals and bringing them to the shelter or transporting them from one place to the next. So many of my students are active animal welfare. They're on the front lines. They're helping people. My assistant up in Canada, she is helping to trap orphaned baby bears, black bears, and then transporting them to, when their mothers are gone, transporting them to rehab centers where they can, survive. And so there's so many of us, depending on where we live and what kind of animals that we have access to, and also what is the issue that your heart calls you to. And so this is how we may find ourselves in the middle, because we're animal lovers, of an animal activist situation. But tonight I want to talk about how our animal Reiki practice actually can combine with animal activism. And in a nutshell, really what it is animal activism is very difficult, often physically, but definitely emotionally. And people who are on the front lines of animal issues often suffer from emotional burnout or compassion fatigue, right? And if you burn out, then you can no longer really do that service. So that's why there's often a high turnover rate in certain sanctuaries and shelter settings, and um, places where they're rescuing animals, that it's very difficult to last. And so I want you to consider that if animal Reiki is part of the mix when we are an animal activist, we can actually prevent compassion fatigue and that kind of burnout. We could also mitigate it. Any of you that are saying, it's too late, I have it, what can I do? Animal Reiki can mitigate that kind of compassion fatigue and emotional burnout. So really, it is a way for us to be able to be an animal activist for the long haul from a more balanced and healthy place. Doesn't that sound wonderful? Doesn't that sound great? Right? So let's talk about it. And apologies, I'm getting over a pretty bad cough, so my voice is a little off tonight. So thanks, you guys, for your patience. All right, so our animal Reiki practice gives us the tools to navigate this very difficult situation of animal activism, whatever it may be. We're rescuing animals, we're picketing a place, we're working, on an issue. We might be caring for the animals who have come from a very difficult situation, right? Lots of different ways we might be activists. But it can be very, very difficult on our hearts, right? And so our animal Reiki practice actually gives us tools to hold space, to create a quiet energy of peacefulness, and to radiate this outwards. And so we often talk about how animal Reiki helps the animals that we might be working with. But I want to remind you that in that space of animal Reiki, we're all healed. You are part of that space. And so it's also going to be bringing that peacefulness to your heart and that grounding to you in that difficult situation. So, in a way, we can see it as helping us first and then helping the animals. So it's like, when you take an airplane and the flight attendants explain the emergency procedures and they say, okay, well, if the oxygen masks come down from the ceiling and you're sitting with your child, put your mask on first and then, right? So I want you to consider that animal Reiki is this way too, that we consider our own self first. We take that first step of self-care on a consistent basis. That's how we put our mask on first. And then when we're out in the field and or we're in a situation where we have to rescue animals or we have to stand up for animals or something's happening, more of a crisis emergency moment or very difficult moment, we have that foundation from our animal Reiki practice. So now we have something to offer and help the animals with. Does that kind of make sense? So think about it in those terms. And, any practice you do with animal Reiki at home with your own animals, you're in a calm, peaceful environment and you're sitting with your cats each evening and doing your meditation, whatever. This is actually giving you, it's fortifying you and strengthening you for when you are out on the front lines, or if you're in your job, those of you who your job is animal welfare, then you are more fortified to go out and do that job and help the animals from any more emotionally stable place, because it can be very depleting and very emotionally unbalancing to have to work on animal issues. So, if we learn how to practice animal Reiki during our quiet moments, we can then bring it to our activist and advocacy moments. And that's going to help us find positivity and calmness, even in the most difficult environment. And why is that important? Well, it's important for us first, because if you're in a crazy, stressful situation, the worst thing you can do is panic, right? We all know that. But secondly, the animals that you may be rescuing or who may be going through this crisis and who are absolutely terrified, right? You want to approach them and be with them in that space in a calm way where your energy says, all is well, all is well. That's going to make the rescue easier. It's going to help the recovery jumpstart more quickly. And so it's going to make things all around just much, much better. So I'm reminded of one of my students who rescued an owl off the side of the road. Recently, she was driving down in her truck and there was this owl that had been hit by a car and broken wing or something. And so she went over and he's by the side of the road. She thought, oh no, he's not alive. She looked, no, he's alive. And he turned his head and looked at her and he was totally aware and everything. And she had nothing. She didn't have a blanket or anything. All she just had was her hands. And so she just started doing her animal Reiki breathing in her practice. And she waited to approach until she was completely calm and grounded and centered. She picked up the owl. She brought him into the truck, sat him on her lap, and drove to the rehab center. And he just sat there with her. Our energy can really shift things in that advocacy moment. It's so important for us to remember that and know that. Okay. So when we practice animal Reiki, what we're learning is we're sort of building a new muscle. And this muscle is, how do I ground my energy? How do I calm my energy in a difficult situation? How do I find my grounding when I feel knocked over? And how do I connect heart to heart from that soul space, that beautiful peacefulness in our soul that's always there, even when the outer circumstances are crazy? That's what we learn in our animal Reiki practice. So the stronger we can get with more practice, the more motivated we'll be to actually go and not be afraid to do this work. I have a lot of students who say to me,
What was that?
oops, let me mute you. I have a lot of students who say to me, oh no, I'm too emotional. I can't go into a shelter setting. I can't work in a shelter. I can't volunteer in a shelter because it's too upsetting. I care about animals too much. I can't stand to see them stressed, and the things they've gone through is too upsetting, right? How many of you have felt that at a time? A lot of my students have come to me and said that. And I said, be patient, do your practice, meditate every day. You are strengthening those muscles You're getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And before you know it, you're going to be able to walk into a shelter and feel that strength within you. And you won't even recognize yourself. You'll be like, wow, I would have been crying, 6 months ago. Look at me now. I'm in here. I'm feeling good. And, part of that is just building that spiritual muscle. Another part of it is your perception, your viewpoint. Your viewpoint and perception of the situation is going to be shifted and awakened due to your animal Reiki meditation practice. So that when you are there, you are seeing more than what's wrong. And that's the other big piece of how our animal Reiki practice fits in the animal activism. Okay. I have another one of my students. She lives in a place somewhere in the Midwest where there are a lot of animal factory farms. And when she drives to work in the morning, when she comes home in the evening, she has to pass by on the highway several trucks filled with different kinds of animals. They're crammed in there, but as she drives by, she can see their eyes pressed against the walls looking out at her. And this was very difficult for her. Of course, it would be for any of us to see that kind of suffering and to know where they're going, and just the whole situation very difficult. She felt so powerless before she learned animal Reiki. And now she understands that there's something she can do as she's driving by. She can hold that energetic space, see the animal's beautiful soul, say, I see you, you're beautiful. I also like to say, I'm sorry, I love you. And you're just sending that love, understanding, and compassion from a human being in a world that, for the most part, doesn't give any attention to that. That's very powerful, energetic message to create in this world. And the other thing that I told her to think about is, when we are on the path of helping animals, we find that animals cross our paths, that we can help because our heart is saying, I am here to be of service. So I said to her, do you think it's an accident that you see these trucks every single day everywhere you go? This is an opportunity for you. It's an opportunity to hold space of healing in that moment for those animals, to be a beautiful healing presence in the life of an animal who has only known violence. That peace, I believe, for an animal to be able to experience that peace, even from a distance, but to be recognized, seen, and appreciated, loved, and grieved. This is something very healing that we can do, not only for the animals, but also for the human animal bond in the world. Just the recognition, being a witness, holding space of compassion. Our world needs more compassion, you guys, right? But how can we do that if we're not doing our daily practice? We might not be able to. We might look away from the truck. We might drive away to try to avoid it, right? So our animal Reiki practice gives us the tools to be able to step into that difficult space and be of service energetically. The biggest gift you can give to an animal is your open-hearted, compassionate presence. And that's the gift you can give even in those situations where you can't do anything. Now, that's not the only thing you can do. You can also go and you can, try to help change laws for animal protection. You can also change your diet and what you eat. You can also go and picket places that are, have been accused of animal cruelty and all. You can actually go and do these things, but you can do them with your animal Reiki practice as your foundation and your fortification. You can do that from a place of great strength and great centeredness, and you can meet that violence and hate and difficult situation and seeing how humans can be. You can meet that with love, and love is a much more powerful energy than hate. Maybe that's the biggest lesson from our animal Reiki practice, is learning how to hold that space of love in that difficult situation. So, In the blog that I wrote this month, if you check out the blog on my Animal Reiki Source website, you'll see uh, I have a blog, How Animal Reiki Can Support Animal Activism. And I have a list of compassion fatigue symptoms. And those of you who work with animals on a regular basis and who often see the dark side of how animals are treated, I encourage you to take a look at the list of compassion fatigue symptoms. And, you can even take a moment. There's a list of resources from In Defense of Animals that I've listed there for places for you to find help and to read articles about help. The first step is awareness. You may not even know that you're burning out. You might even not even know that you're being dragged down by compassion fatigue because you're so focused on your mission. And so this is another place where Animal Reiki, our Animal Reiki practice, helps us because our practice, one of the central things that happens when you do your Animal Reiki meditation is you develop mindfulness. Mindfulness means I'm awake. I'm here. I see what's around me. I have an awareness of this moment and what's going on inside me. Not only what's going on around me, but what's going on inside me. That's mindfulness. If we are mindful, gosh, this week was really hard at work and I'm feeling really emotionally dragged down. We can do something about it to help ourselves, right? If we don't notice and we're just in the work, that's when the burnout can happen. So, developing the mindfulness is really a big piece of this as well. In my blog, I also talk about the Reiki precepts. The Reiki precepts are things like for today only, do not anger, do not worry, be grateful, be honest in your work, be compassionate to yourself and others. And these are touch points for us to remember about how do I stay in balance, you know? And so this is another teaching that our animal Reiki practice can bring us back to that can help us, perhaps instead of turning to a place of anger and bitterness, we can turn to a place of gratitude for the animals and that they're being rescued or that you're part of this wonderful organization that can't save everyone but is saving so many. Like there's a place to find a silver lining and to focus on that. And that helps keep you going. So, our animal Reiki practice will also develop that within you. I also want to just say a couple of things about animal lovers. So many of you, I would say 90% of my students, you are empaths. I did a whole class on this last year. I don't know if any of you came to that, but if you're an empath, you actually feel the pain of others as if it's your own pain. This makes animal activism very difficult because if you are, driving by this truck on the road with these, animals inside, you are for a moment, you are actually feeling that all that emotion and grief and fear that they're feeling, it's washing over you like it's your own. This is just nothing wrong with you. This is actually your strength. Sometimes we see it as, oh no, I'm such an empath. I can't live in the world. No, this is your superpower. You get it. You really, really get it. And now do something about it. Right? So, our animal Reiki practice helps us to fortify, strengthen, and ground ourselves so that when we do, as empaths, get those messages and they wash over us, we can actually process that and then do something. And it might be all I can do in this moment is do meditation, dedicated meditation, see them, tell them I love you, you know, hold that beautiful space of peacefulness, all is well for them. Maybe that's all we can do, but maybe we can do more. When we're in that strong, fortified place, that's where we get those ideas. Oh, you know what? I'm going to join this group. You know what? I heard about a petition. I'm going to go sign that and find out how I can help. You know what? There's a sanctuary down the street. I'm going to go volunteer there. I heard that our local shelter needs foster families for their kittens. You know what? I can do that. You know, there's so many different ways we can actually get involved if we have the reserves for it, if we have the emotional fortitude and strength for it, and if we understand our higher purpose. And Animal Reiki, this is another gift. Animal Reiki brings us that higher purpose. Animal Reiki helps us connect on a soul level with these animals. And we can see the healing, the incredible healing that takes place when we do connect from that space. And we understand how important it is to be the person, the human, who can hold that space for them when they're going through difficulty, who can hold the light through the darkness. When we understand that higher purpose, it kind of helps us transcend those difficult moments, and we can walk through the darkness because all we really see is the light and why we're there. And so this gives us an incredible opportunity to step into activist advocacy situations and be the strong one. And you know what can happen if you're the human being in that difficult advocacy moment and you're radiating that strength and peace? That's going to help all the other people who are also there doing the work. That's going to give them strength. They're going to feel that. So we're not only helping the animals, we're not only helping ourselves, finding our purpose, we're also supporting all of the other people. So your presence in an activist situation, in an advocacy moment, your presence can make all the difference. So don't be afraid, even if you are a highly sensitive empath like me. Trust your practice. Do it every day, and you'll feel those spiritual muscles strengthening and strengthening and strengthening. And then you'll dip your toe in. Oh, let me try this. I wonder how that will be. Hey, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm surprised. 6 months ago, I wouldn't have been, right? Dip your toe in and do a little more and a little more and a little more. And before you know it, you will be helping animals in bigger ways than you ever imagined. And you'll be doing it from a healthy, balanced place within your heart. And that's your animal Reiki practice that gives you the tools to do that. So I hope tonight's talk has given you some inspiration, some thoughts, some ideas. If you're more interested to study, if you haven't already studied Let Animals Lead Animal Reiki with me, please visit my website at Animal Reiki Source. I've got some classes starting next week, actually. So there's still time to join if you want to join a class. And those of you who are on the call who have taken the training, I'd love tonight if you would share a situation where your practice helped you through a difficult animal advocacy moment, or how you found your practice help you to step out into more of an activist role maybe than you thought you ever would. So if any of you tonight want to share that, I would love to hear your thoughts or anything else you want to talk about with Animal Reiki. So I'm going to open it up now to you guys. Anybody want to share? You can raise your hand. You can just unmute yourself. There's just a small group of us here, so pretty informal.
I just recently am looking for a new shelter to volunteer with the dogs at. And so I've been going to some shelters just because I moved. I still love my previous shelter, but it's been quite different than, well, over a decade ago when I went to my first shelter and was actually doing some writing of adoption stories first. And they said, oh, you have to take the orientation. I was like, oh no, I'm not going to do anything with the animals because I'd get too depressed. And the same old thing. They said, well, you have to. And I was, oh, even for writing, yes. And then of course, once I did it and saw the dogs, and I got hooked. And but now walking through several different shelters, I'm certainly connecting with them differently, and I'm not. I mean, they're very nice. They're very nice shelters and no horrible situations, but I'm certainly coming from a totally different place after having shared Reiki with dogs in a shelter for almost a decade, I guess, on and off. And now my approaching of the animals, and with the chaotic barking, and most of them, of course, charging the gate, and I see them so differently, and seeing them with my Reiki eyes, and totally seeing them with my Reiki eyes. It's very different. And I while I was doing it, I realized that too, which was another beautiful gift. But so I'm very grateful for being part of Let Animals Lead, and where it's led me so far and where it will continue to. So thank
That's
you so much.
wonderful. And I'm curious, Robin, do you see a difference in the way the dogs respond to you as you've evolved your approach and seen, taken a different view as you approach the dogs versus in the beginning?
I can't say that for sure, but I think so. I Because I do believe that all animals, they feel what that here is someone who is open and full of love for them, and I certainly believe that they're sensing that. So I think so, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Anybody else? Well, I'm going to call on you, Carol, if you're able to speak, because Carol Hulse is here tonight, and she is an animal activist. Through her writing, she actually works with Brighthaven. You guys know Brighthaven from many stories, and very special in my journey with Animal Reiki. And Carol is a very, very talented writer. And, sometimes that's the way that we push forward the envelope to help animals. We all have our gifts. So I want you to think about your activism in your own unique way with your unique gifts. And I know Carol also does rescue and helps Brighthaven in other ways, but her writing to me stands out as such a gift. And Carol, I'd love if you shared a little bit about your recently published article, which is on the brighthaven.org website right now.
Oh, the blog post I sent you?
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, the most recent one, it's kind of a combination because I think of Animal Reiki and Brighthaven because to me, they're so closely linked. And Kathleen's class brought me to Brighthaven back in May 2010, and the rest is history. But the article is about what animals can teach us about unconditional acceptance. And it's actually an excerpt from the book that Gail Pope and I co-wrote and published the end of last year called Grateful Spiritual Comfort and Wisdom in Life's Last Chapter. And we share in the book, we share Brighthaven stories about animal lessons, from some of the many very special animals that pass through Brighthaven's gates over the years. And I think also just the premise behind the book, and I think also the article is to, our goal, and one of the goals in writing that book was to help people to see animals as the wise and wonderful teachers they are, and the spiritual, uh, and their spiritual significance. And the hope is that people will go see them as equals. And then the article, the most recent one, Kathleen's referring to also speaks to the Reiki precept that gets me through. Well, I guess it's not technically a precept, but the affirmation that all is well, and that gets me through many a moment about every day, Kathleen.
Mhm.
You know, Cassie's passing. Cassie's a little dog. Um, that was part of Gail's daughter's family. Inspired me to write the poem, so people would also not view that. I mean, the death of an animal is challenging. You know, we've all. I'm most likely everybody here has been through it, and yet there's also beauty to it in that what animals can show us about living well, dying well, lessons in the moment, the many gifts of that special times. And the article also touches on the role Reiki plays. It's a big part of Brighthaven, part of our menu for healing, but it's also so particularly helpful in those last weeks, days, moments of life. And yeah, I mean, it just never ceased to amaze me how closely Brighthaven and Animal, Animal Reiki are synced up. And the last thing I'd want to say to your point, Kathleen, you know, the Animal Reiki did give me strength because there was a while I lived when the sanctuary was open in Santa Rosa. I was able to live on the property for about 4.5 years. And so, since Bright Haven Sanctuary was focused on hospice and uh, you know, seriously ill animals, it gave me the strength to be with them as they passed, and see it as such a privilege and to be there for them. And a lot of times I would also go over and offer Reiki to animals that have passed to help them on their journey. And I'm not sure, when I first heard about animal hospice years ago, I saw it on before Brighthaven. I just broke down in tears. But I think, you know, Animal Reiki did give me that strength to just show up and be there and just, you know, all is well. Even in that challenging moment, all is well.
Wow, so beautiful, Carol. Thank you so much for sharing about your beautiful gift of writing. I hope you all check that out on the brighthaven.org blog, and also your own personal experience of Animal Reiki strengthening you. I love that. Thank you.
Thank you. And when I don't know if you remember, Kathleen, probably early on, probably at least 10 plus years ago, we had a talk as part of a Reiki course. You would meet with people to get a better sense of what they wanted to do or whatever. I said, I want to somehow use my Reiki and my writing to be of service to animals. And so,
Now you've written a book, and
two,
2 books, and this beautiful blog, and you're in your element. You're completely 100% in your element. I
so
love it.
it comes full circle. Thank you, Kathleen, for, you know,
Right. Well, and thank you also for being here for me to say that writing can be a form of activism. So if you're writing something that is revolutionary for the mission of animals, that is an activist act. That is an important advocacy moment. And so we can all find our gifts and bring them forth for the animals in a way that can change people's minds and change their decisions they're making in the world, and make the world a better place for animals. So thank you for doing that, Carol.
well, thank you. And sorry I couldn't turn on the video because there's some browser issues. So that, or else I would have.
Oh, no worries.
But thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other sharing before we close with our Animal Reiki healing circle tonight? All right. Then let's finish with our healing circle. So let's go into Gasho. palms together, and we'll take a moment to set our intention. And I always like to just dedicate the energy of my practice to my animals. I just bring them to my mind and heart. And this month also, we have a special theme in our Animal Reiki Let Animals Lead community. Every month, we dedicate all of our meditations to a group of animals. And so this month, it is sea animals. So whales, dolphins, fish, all sea life. And we just invite them to step into the space for peace, for love, for compassion. May they be safe. May they be free to live their lives. And we just hold space for them this month and right now. And then resting our hands on our lap, we're going to take a moment, do some belly breathing, or hara breathing, as I call it. And your hara is your lower belly. You can imagine it as an energy center, like a bright light in the center of your physical being. And as you breathe in, you're going to imagine that your breath is a pure and clear light, and it comes in through the crown at the top of your head and fills your body with light, and it moves all the way down to the hara, the lower belly. And then as you exhale, imagine that light expands out of every pore in your skin and into your aura and out into the universe. So breathing in the light, filling your body, connecting with the lower belly, and breathing out, expanding that light. I'm breathing in the light and breathing out, expanding the light. And this breath helps center us and ground us. So just take a moment and focus all of your mind and heart on the breath, bringing the light in, connecting to the belly, and exhaling the light out all around you. Just find your own natural pace. And just really focusing on the breath. And then relax your breath for a moment and just see yourself sitting in this beautiful space of light that you created. And imagine this light is filled with love, kindness, peacefulness, groundedness, perfect harmony, and perfect healing. And imagine you can just sort of hold this light as a beautiful offering to the animals. Your animals, whatever animals are in your mind and heart today, the sea life on the world, in the world. And just invite those animals to step in and share the space if they wish. It's completely up to them. You can just kind of feel your being radiating this loving, healing light. And we can remind ourselves and remember that all is well. And if you have any special animals on your mind and heart tonight who need special healing from our circle, we invite them in with an open heart. We also remember that all is well. So just seeing them with your Reiki eyes, seeing them as perfect, beautiful, bright soul, remembering all is well. And then bringing our hands back into Gasho, palms together. And take a moment to thank the animals for sharing this space. However, they chose to connect in this moment was just perfect. And then setting our intention to finish, take a nice deep breath and slowly come back and open your eyes. Well, thank you all so much for being a part of tonight's discussion. I hope it's been helpful, and I really appreciate those of you who actually shared your own experiences. I always love hearing about your experience in your life of these different topics. Um, and be sure to check out my blog this month, the Animal Reiki Source blog, all about animal Reiki and animal activism and how animal Reiki can help you be more of an activist. So, wishing you all blessings as you go into the world to help animals. Have a beautiful July, and I'll see you guys next month. Take care, everybody. Bye.